Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, and child development all over the world through the lens of self-government. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about breaking the generational cycle of bad parenting practices. What happens to us does not have to be what we do in our parenting. And I think we've got to embrace that idea because so often people use the way that they were parented as an excuse for bad parenting behavior. Now, if you're watching this video, I'm pretty sure that you are wanting solutions so that you don't have to just rely upon excuses. And I commend you for that. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of these generational bad habits that we can fall into. And then I'm going to give you a step-by-step method for what you can do to make sure that you break out of those generational cycles that you do not want to repeat. I speak about parenting at large conferences all over the world, and parents will come to me and they will say, Nicholeen, I've become my mother, or I'm doing things that my dad did that I promised myself that I would never do. How do I stop doing these same things? And so that's when I say, okay, we've got to understand first what type of parenting you were parented with. So there are different styles of parenting. I have multiple videos on this channel that talk about the different styles of parenting, how there's a bully fear-based style, a modern progressive, really permissive style, and then there is the assertive, traditional, strict style. And most people are a combination between these things. But if you're saying to yourself, I don't want to do that my parent did, so maybe it's laziness or maybe it's aggressiveness. Those are the two things that people usually don't want the most. You have to say to yourself, okay, so I don't want aggressive bully fear-based, or I don't want modern progressive permissive parenting, right? The lazy type. What I actually want is probably a more principled approach, which is your traditional strict type of parenting. And again, I hope you go look at those videos after this one so that you can make sure that you see more about those styles so that you can really draw those lines for yourself. But probably you want more of a principled approach to your parenting, which is why you don't want to fall into emotional habits or just convenience like some parents do. But the problem is you only know what you've seen and what you've experienced, and so then your problem-solving abilities are not actually up to the level of where your principles are. So a truly self-governed person has their practice or their behaviors and actions match their principles. So that's the idea, is to try to get yourself to that stage. If you can have your practice match your principle, then you will probably be able to successfully pull out of any generational cycle or habit that you would consider to be bad or that you don't want to duplicate yourself. Now, maybe some people are thinking, but my parents, they were church-going people. They were, principled people or something like that. They may have had principles too, but their practice didn't match their principles. So be careful not to turn on all of your parents' principles and their religious convictions just because their practice wasn't good. Because here's the thing, it's not that somebody is necessarily a hypocrite, it's just that they don't know what they don't know. And as you're trying to handle this situation of not becoming, them, whoever raised you, you don't know what you don't know either. And so that's what we're going to try to help you understand, is what you can know that will make a difference. The very first thing of any correction is to be able to describe where you find yourself or describe what you see. So if you can understand the different styles of parenting and to be able to identify, this is what I want and this is what I'm doing a lot of the time, or maybe I'm doing some of this and some of this because I don't know how to get what I want. If you can just identify that for yourself, that's really liberating, and it gives you a direction to head that is not full of emotional baggage and excuses. So you've got to emotionally detach from what happened to you in order to actually make a change. And when I say detach, I don't mean in the unhealthy, like pretend life didn't happen, but you have to let it go. You have to say, you know what, I'm dropping the subject on that. I was raised in a way that obviously was detrimental to me or detrimental to somebody else. And that person maybe didn't know what they didn't know. Maybe they were narcissistic and they had problems and they weren't treating the family well. But usually it's that they just don't know another way. So let's use compassion there. Let's not judge the person, but let's say, but we're not going to do it. But I'm also not going to spend my time thinking about it anymore because it's done. It's over. I mean, again, unless it's a narcissistic person, which they never stop and it goes on forever. And in which case, watch my videos on narcissism. But in most cases, once the children are grown and mostly grown or all the way grown, the parent has no need anymore for those types of practices that they had. And so then they just go back to being just a regular person. And then everybody's going, oh, why did we have to endure all of that? So you don't want to be the parent where your child is thinking, I don't want to become them, right? You want to be somebody who they want to look up to, who they want to become like. And I know that definitely was something that I was looking for in my parenting. I wanted my children to see me as the example of how to live a good life. In fact, when my daughter was just barely getting married, she said to me, Mom, if I could just be like you, I would know that I could have a happy life. I would feel like I'm very successful. And nothing could have been so sweet to me as those words, because I had worked on myself so much to make sure that I wasn't a reactive parent and that I was really there for the children, but I also taught them a lot and I was also calm with all those teachings and corrections. And that's what she was hoping to become for her life. There was no greater honor that could be said to me than at that moment. And I know you're probably hoping for something like that too. Not that you can completely control how someone's going to process your parenting, especially because there's outside sources that sometimes try to influence, but you can know that you've done your best if you have parented by principle. So let's talk about this step-by-step process of parenting by principle and what that's going to look like. Before we go through the step-by-step process, hit that subscribe button. There are tons of videos on this channel that you are going to want to digest, sometimes maybe even again and again, so that you do not fall into that generational cycle that you are trying to get away from. So hit subscribe now. So let's talk about principled parenting. One of the principles that I hold most dear is the principle of self-government. So what is self-government? Self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So this means that in order to be self-governed, I have to have a plan ahead of time of where I am headed. Not just focus on where I've been, but I've got to be focusing on where I'm going and then say, and what's happening right now, that I can use this moment to help me get to where I want to go. That is what a self-governed person does. And so what we have to do is take that deliberate time and be intentional about where we want to be headed in our relationships and in our family. So I do believe in assessing relationships on a regular basis, and I will sit down and think about the relationships in my family and say, how can I improve that relationship? How would I describe that relationship right now? What are the good parts of the relationship? What are the things that, I definitely need to put my focus on and work on? Do I feel connected enough to that person or not? Those types of evaluation questions that help me prepare to have better relationships with my family members. They are powerful. But another thing that I have done, which I do believe has been really important for our family, is we have created a family vision. So I teach self-government parenting, and we have a course. And in our teaching self-government course, I talk about creating a 20-year vision for the future of what those relationships are going to feel like and be like in the future. And there's a way, I'm not going to go into it right now, for creating a really great vision. There's other videos on this channel that talk about that, so you definitely can look at some of those. But it's basically this picture that we hold on to that's how we are going to feel when we are with each other all these years in the future. That's our plan. That is how we are going to adjust history if we need to, right? So if you're trying to break out of a generational cycle, then you've got to make a new picture for yourself. You only have one picture. That's the picture that you've had. Or maybe the pictures on TV, which are like highly dysfunctional, right? So you want something different. You haven't seen it yet. You've got to take time to see it and maybe pull out even some classic books, some really good whole books. I mean, honestly, Pull out Little House on the Prairie, see how they talk to each other, how they solve their problems. That's a fantastic example of a functional family. And so start reading about those things and then say, okay, what do I want? Do I want to have time where I'm singing with my children, playing music with my children like Ma and Pa Ingalls did in Little House in the Big Woods and Little House on the Prairie and that series of books? If so, then I've got to start doing that now, right? I've got to articulate that to the family, and then let's start doing it now. So start working on a vision of where you're headed. Then once you've created that, you are ready for some good principled skills that are going to lead you in that direction. And by the way, the principle behind that preparation is without vision, the people perish. Okay, so if you do not know where you are going, your chances of getting there would be purely accidental. You don't accidentally become a united family and a happy family. It's not an accident. It's something that people work toward on purpose. That doesn't mean everybody nails it 100%, but it is a deliberate action that people do. So that's the principle. Let's talk about these skills. There are a lot of communication skills that I teach that are going to be vital for breaking bad habits. When we solve problems as a group, sometimes this brings out the worst in families and in our parenting. We get too emotional about the problems. That is the number one mistake. We've got to remember not to take the problems that people do personally. This is vital for our success. We've got to be able to say, okay, that just happened. How do I talk to them about it and help them with it, instead of going, why did they do that? This is making my life so hard. This is taking more time. This is, fill in the blank. Those are the things people think when they're taking it personally, when they should be instead thinking, how can I help this person that I love? Because clearly there's a problem right here. This goes with our parenting as well as with our communications as spouses, also. So keep that in mind. So we need to have good communication skills. So that means we've got to teach our children the skills that they need for success with us, and we need to know the skills too. So I want to make sure I hit that very clear. The children understand all the skills that they need to communicate on their side of any interaction. And the children also learn all of the parenting skills. They're going to be parents one day, right? So let's teach them the skills that they need for success as we practice them in our home. It also increases predictability in all of the interactions, which decreases the anxiety and the frustration and contention that can occur. So having them understand all the words that you will say before they're even said in a correction interaction only serves them well. It serves you well too. And it removes all manipulation, which it's the manipulation, I bet, that you really don't want to do. The manipulation looks like anger. It looks like getting emotional. It looks like putting up walls and not talking to people. That's all manipulation to try to control how a person feels in order to control an outcome. It's bad parenting. And that's probably what you felt that you didn't want. So in order to not have manipulation, you need skills. I wrote this book called Parenting a House United back in 2009 after the BBC made a documentary of our family on a program called The World's Strictest Parents. This is a best-selling book, and it details so many of the skills that you will need for success. There's also courses and trainings where I talk about all the things in this book plus more. So what types of skills do I teach in this book? I teach the skill following instructions, the skill accepting no answers and criticism, the skill accepting consequences, and the skill disagreeing appropriately. Those are the 4 basic skills that children can learn, but they're not just for children, they're for adults too. If you have a disagree appropriately mindset, you're always going to be more open-minded and have a good listening ear for your children and for your spouse. These skills also help you in the office and just throughout daily life in general. The other skills that we're going to talk about in this book have to do with correcting the behaviors and teaching the children the right way. I also teach the skill of doing a problem-solving exercise called a SOTAs, which helps the child learn how to get better outcomes in their communications and their actions. These types of things, as well as the family standard that we create and the family meetings and the culture, the tone of calmness that we create in our home, all lay the foundation for following through on that family vision that we create as a group. So these things need to be pre-taught ahead of time, and then you need to consistently follow through. Consistency is one of the hardest things for parents to do. And that's because they get caught up in the moment and they start getting creative in their parenting, or maybe they're tired that day, so they don't correct something that should be corrected. And then the child learns there's a little loophole. When mom's tired, you can get away with whatever you want, or something like that. So consistency is vital for teaching cause and effect, which is important for learning self-government. That means that the parent has to decide it's worth the effort every day, every time, no matter what. Even if they have to wake up in the middle of the night, it's worth the effort to do that teaching, do that training, and that correcting that the children need. This is going to also help you break a manipulation cycle that you might have experienced as a child. Why do parents manipulate? Because they're lazy, because they don't want to deal with it, because they want you just to comply and leave them alone. It's all selfishness. So if you're willing to put in the work and to say, oh, it's time to stand up and do teaching or do correction, I welcome it. If you can decide that that's what you were meant for, because you are the parent in the interaction, then guess what? You probably won't manipulate as often. I could tell you so many more things about how to implement a system that would break that generational cycle that you are wanting to break. But instead of spending my time here, I want to just refer you to a full class that I did on this channel for free for you. The class is called The Not So Known Secret to Parenting Success, and it will go into a lot of detail about the skills that you need for success in your home. So click on the link to The Not So Known Secret for Parenting Success now.